Hiya.
Hello.
How you
Hey,
doing?
I'm so good, mate. How are you?
Oh my God, it's just actually been too long.
It's been too long. We have failed a little bit on our consistency of podcasts, but there's some good reasons for that. I mean, there's obviously some busyness in the old work life, but that's good. We are very busy. Well, I certainly am delivering client work and being immersed in the world of agentic sales, which is another podcast we're going to do very soon.
I reckon that's the next one.
But there's also some personal reasons as well, isn't there, LL?
Yeah, we found you knew back at Christmas, but the world didn't know that I am now 29 weeks pregnant as of today. So we're
Baby!
having a baby.
No, we're having a baby. It's
The purple patch
the
baby.
purple patch spawn.
We did agree this. We said, look, not sure how much we really want it full time. Maybe you and Ian could have it 50% of the time, and
I'm down with that. I'm down with
that could
that.
work.
I mean, I feel like I would be a great share parent, definitely. Yeah. I think it'd be great. I think we'd be great. I mean, imagine, it'd just be fabulous. But no, it's very, very exciting. I'm very excited to be Auntie Danielle,
Anti-DDH, yeah, it's going to be great.
Auntie DDH to this new, which is not far away. It is not far away. It's not far away at all.
I reckon we're 7-8 weeks off now. I'm hoping because of my efficiency, it's going to come early. That's the
hopefully, yeah. It's probably the one thing in life, though, Lucy, that you are not in charge of.
No.
Whilst you are housing it, it will come when it is ready.
I said to the midwife the other week, I was like, so can I get an induction? Had done no research on it. Didn't really understand what the induction was. I just thought it meant it came quicker. She was like, let's discuss that in a few weeks' time. I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, you're like, not right now, Lucy.
Yeah.
No.
I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah, but we wanted to do a little bit of a podcast on this, didn't we? Because it has been a journey. It's definitely been a journey. And you said that you wanted to share some of that and that, your journey might help others, I suppose, kind of going through a similar or the same thing. So I think you've always wanted to be a parent, though. I remember this from probably I think even maybe second or third interview or something. You have always, known that you wanted to have children, known that you wanted to be a parent. And yeah, I think it's amazing. Me, on the other hand, just dilly-dallied around for too long and then kind of got a bit too old and then kind of went, well, maybe it's not for us. But I think it's a beautiful thing that's something you've always wanted to do and to be. But of course, it's not always a simple journey. So why don't you share?
I can share. I think to give a bit of backstory, I think a lot of people already know this, but obviously I'm married to Lindsay, so same-sex relationship. So firstly, it's never as straightforward as it may be. Traditional male-female relationship.
If you had
a bit of a easier
yes.
way in for the evening, and then beside that, I also I was adopted. So when I was really little, and we've gone through that, and so therefore for me, going through this process that potentially wasn't the traditional route never really bothered me. That wasn't like, oh my God, we've got to go through a process. I was like, to be honest, for me, and you know how process driven I am, I'm like, great. So you tick that box, you do that, you do this, you do that, and then you kind of just get a baby, right? So that's what I thought. And I couldn't have been more wrong because, as we said at the beginning of the podcast, this stuff doesn't really work on my timelines. Mm-hmm. So I remember me and Lindsay had the conversation pretty early on because I think it's one of those conversations that we were late 20s when we met. So it was either like, you know what you want, and if you're on the same page, great, and if you're not, let's speed this process up a bit. And then we started talking about children, and I was quite against marriage, not against it, but previous back history, I wasn't really bothered by it, and neither was Lindsay.
Funny though, because you were actually previously engaged. Let's just
getting pretty close,
yeah, let's just put that out there.
Got pretty close.
That's another podcast that we'll do.
Yeah, that's definitely that's a glass of wine podcast. And we knew that, and then for some reason I don't know what it was. I can't tell you what came over me. But as soon as we started talking about children, I was like, oh, I think I want to get married. And then she's like, what? And I was like, well, in my head it was like this traditional thing of if we're going to bring a baby into a non-traditional lifestyle, which in these days is not a big deal. But in my head, I was like, I just want to give it the best start and the best foundation you can. For some god but no reason, because both of us come from split parents, I was like, oh, that means marriage, doesn't it? Like, that helps. So we did. We got married, and obviously you were there on the beach, and it was great fun.
I was. It was great.
Very relaxed. Danielle just panicked about how we were going to walk down with no aisle, basically, the whole time. Your 50th, nearly got you there. Your 40th birthday was more planned than my wedding.
It certainly was, yeah. The lack of aisle was really throwing me. That's another glass of wine podcast. Yeah. We might have I think we do the ones with wine series.
I agree. That's it.
Yeah,
we'll do this bit. Okay. The ones with wine podcast like that. So anyway, we got married, and then we very quickly actually started the process. Actually, about 2.5 years ago now, 2 years ago, and that was just after my birthday. And initially, obviously, you have the conversation of who's going to carry. And I was knee deep in Go One with you, and to be honest, like, really hit quite a peak in what I was enjoying, and it didn't really feel like the right time for me to start having to go with this. And it felt right for Lindsay to probably be in a better position. I remember having that conversation with you and Ian over Christmas, over a few G&Ts. Yeah, it was that. Yeah. It was that like that Christmas. And then that fast forwards to April to the first meeting with these IVF guys.
But that's just before we get to that, though. Like, I think it's quite an interesting thing to talk about, because obviously, if you were a heterosexual couple, right? It's like, well, just the woman carries. It's, but it's very different in a same-sex relationship where you even had that choice. And it was interesting when we were talking about it, like, even things like, if you are considering having children in a same-sex couple, like, who of the two of you, which company has the better, like, maternity leave package, all that kind of stuff? Like, it actually played a bit of a part in that.
Huge part. Yeah. And for us, like, you like, at the time when you're going through these appointments and all this jazz, you're like, God, are we ever going to get there? And then when we did get there, it kind of all made sense, because there would be no way in the world where we would be in the position we are now had all of those other events not happened. And like, we'll get to all of that, but we had the first appointment, and I remember the doctor, and to be honest, he was just really blasé. He was like, yeah, like, almost too blasé. He was like, yeah, so you can do this, you can do whatever you want, really, like. And it was really quite like that. So we decided, we went away almost with more questions than we went in with.
Interesting.
And then it was really strange, and because they're just so like medical, I guess, in that regard. It's like, well, you just gotta pick your donor and off you go, or you don't have to pick a donor if you have a known donor, etc. But the process for us was, we went back, we discussed who was going to go first initially, and then we go back to him and say, this is what our plan is. He puts a plan together for us, and you have to go through therapy. So you go through 3 counselling sessions, which I actually think everyone should have to do, because they just ask questions that me and Lindsay had already had, but like, it was very much questions like, so the baby, are you going to tell the baby that they are from a donor? And I was like, well, it didn't come from me and Lindsay, did it? So yes, of course. And because of my backstory, very straightforward. Like, Mum used to just tell me a story every night before I went to bed. It was never on when I found out. It was just, I'd always known. So Mum and Dad did a really amazing job of that. So I was like, if I could take a bit of that and add a bit of me and Lindsay in it, then it would be great. So that took like 4 months, and we were up in Brisbane. We were actually house sitting for you when you were back over here in the UK, in Europe. And we then got to the donor stage. So it was like trying to pick a donor, and I can only describe it as Tinder. You're literally just swiping left and swiping right. It's just. But
also, that's really interesting, and actually, I learned this through another same-sex couple, friends of ours who went through a similar process, and actually, donors can pick whether they want their sperm to go to same-sex couples. And
really?
I think that, and I think that's quite interesting. Yeah,
I didn't know that. Yeah, really interesting. But the app's called Adam, and then if you're in a same-sex,
why's it called Adam?
Because if you're in a male-male relationship, it's called Eve. I kid you not.
Brilliant. And who came up with that branding?
Yeah, it is unbelievable. But the competitiveness of this thing, like, you'd think, okay, cool, you've got all of Australia. You actually don't. It's like, you're only allowed New South Wales You've then got to go through like a load of extra tests. So we went through a load of chromosome tests to check that we weren't carriers of anything. And then then you had to find a donor. And I'm honestly not kidding. I reckon there was like 15 people on there. That was it. Like 15 donors. Like it was really low.
And again, that's because, unfortunately, a lot of donors might not pick the same-sex couples. So yeah, I think you'll interesting.
Portions are a little limited, and then when you do like go through the process,
what do you see? What do you see on the app?
Picture. You don't get adult photos. I think in America you might get different photos, and then you get like 6 pages of family history. So they go all the way back to grandparents, medical questions, why they're doing it, what their interests are, and obviously everyone goes through their own thought process of what they want. Me and Lindsay we just want health, and initially at that time when Lindsay was potentially going to carry, we went for like someone in similar to me, so a bit more tanned. You read the interest. You read the interest. Bit more tanned, and the interests were like podcasts. He was a PE lecturer or something in America, into sport, and we were like, hello, done. So we went for that person, and we got that. And then you literally just keep buying the vials as you then go, basically. So once you've then got that all in place, you've done the counselling, you've had all those appointments, you can essentially get going on the next round. What they don't tell you is, and this has changed now, but this was 2 years ago, you had to do 2 rounds of IUI before you could move to IVF, because then you were eligible for the medical rebate. They've changed that now.
What's the difference, Lucy, with IUI versus IVF?
IUI is honestly like plonk it in a test tube and give it, and off it goes by a doctor, obviously. All medically.
Of course. Wait, like the turkey-based method?
Turkey-based, literally, they just track your cycle.
I don't know why I did that in a Scouse accent. A turkey-baster?
Baster meat? They just align, so blood tests for like, it's pretty full on, but the IUI is much less invasive. And obviously we have our eggs retrieved during all of this, so you're doing half the IVF process to have the egg retrieval done. And I remember when Lindsay went in, I was like, so how long is she going to be? Usually it might be an hour, might be half an hour, like depends how she comes around from anaesthetic. 3 hours we were in there. I was like, can you eat your sandwich and drink your cup of tea quicker and so we can get out of here, please? I was like, oh my God. So we got that out, and then you
very romantic.
It is honestly very clinical. And then you wait for like 5 days while they defrost these, they put together the embryo and everything. They make an embryo, and then you've got to wait 5 days to see how these embryos turn out, and they grade them. And Lindsay's were amazing. We were super lucky with that. It was really good. It's just like you're sitting on, you can imagine, right? We're 9 months in now from the conversation we've had in 6 minutes. So it just goes on and on, waiting for days and weeks. And then it's like, oh, how's your cycle? And then it's blood tests for 3-4 times a week for 2 weeks-ish. To check when you're about to ovulate. And then when you're about to ovulate, IUI, you just go back into the clinic, and they'll do the transfer then with, like, I'm sure they'll have more medical term than turkey baster, but very similar to that. And then they go, cool, see you later. And then you wait 2 weeks. You just have to sit there and wait. And it's like that Friends episode when Phoebe's got her legs in the air. She's like, wait, like, I've just got to play with gravity. To see if it works. And sadly it didn't work. We had a few missed rounds that didn't quite stick, and in between that, life moves on, because especially when you're working, you've got a job to do and you got to execute on certain things. So she carried on amazingly well, and I mean, we all know how amazing Lindsay is, but like, I don't think you ever fully appreciate it unless you're going through it yourself. But yeah, she smashed that and did incredible. But we had a few failed rounds of that, and to the point where we went, okay, cool, do we move to IVF? Because the chances go up. So we did that, and then obviously you're going through a lot more jabs. It's a lot more invasive. You feel bloated. You feel pretty crap. And that didn't work. So then we had the conversation around, Luce, do you feel in a position to take on this, basically? And at the time, I'd been with you, I'd been doing self-employed stuff. Like, I absolutely loved that stuff. But there was a part of me where I was like, I've got to have some form of stability here a little bit more. And it's not fair to always be on Lynn's. And this opportunity came up with Salesforce, and there was almost like 2-pronged on how I think I approached that. It was like personal reasons and professional reasons. And the personal reasons were nothing to do with anyone else, and it may never have worked, because it's a lot of the conversation I'm having with you is like, do we even talk about this with them? Do you say anything to your employer? And this, like, Lynn's would have been the same. Do we not? What do you do in that environment when you're in a corporate environment? Do you tell your employer you're going through treatment? Because in a normal relationship, you wouldn't be like, cool, so we're trying. It's really odd concept to start having a conversation about it. And because we hadn't known timelines and we're 18 months in at this point, we said we don't know how long it's going to take, so there's no point. And so we did another round and it missed. And then Lynn's went over to you. And I was about a few months into role at that point. And very, very lucky with where we both work, both in tech. And the ability for them to fund some form of the IVF was an incredible resource.
Because it was, and I mean, it's quite an interesting thing to kind of talk about. I mean, if you're happy to share, like, up to that point, how much do you think you'd roughly spent on?
A house and a half deposit, probably.
Wow. Yeah.
But we delayed the house deposit. We were meant to buy that back in January the previous year, and we went, well, what do we want more? We can buy a house at any point. We might not be able to have kids at any point. And that was literally the thought process. So for us, we hemorrhaged a fair bit of cash on that.
Yeah. And also I think the emotional, definitely the emotional side of things, for Lindsay, like, it was multiple rounds, and every time you get excited and you get yourself in that mindset, and, as much as, everybody knows that, yes, you might have to go through that, right? There's no guarantee it will happen on the first round. There's no guarantee that it will happen on the first round when you're in a heterosexual relationship, right? And it's only when you start getting into trying for children, or in my case, surrounded by all my friends that similar age, were all kind of going through this. And, even miscarriage rates are enormous. You just don't think about that. And that emotional toll on Lindsay and how she handled that was just incredible.
I agree.
Yeah, but then it was your turn to pick up the baton.
It's my turn. I see we were talking about this before. It's like you spend your whole life trying not to get pregnant, and then it's like an absolute race to the finish line. God Christ, can we get there a bit quicker? It's mad. Yeah, so we were incredibly lucky with the benefits that came with the corporate world, and they actually funded my round. So I went through egg retrieval, and it's almost like I can only describe. And now I had a taste of what Lindsay's then going through, right? And it's like your light's a bit dulled out. Like you just don't really feel like yourself. You're bloated. You're putting on weight. You can't then get rid of the weight. Like you're prodded constantly. It's just a lot, and no one knows. So you just, unless you're really like your family and friends may know, but within a working environment, they definitely don't. And you go into appointments and all sorts. And then so I did egg retrieval, and then we went for a round, and we luckily enough found out that I was pregnant. And I literally remember Lindsay, we had this conversation the other day. Lindsay was like, so like, are you all right? How are you feeling? And I was like, Lindsay, I didn't prep for anything other than a transfer. I was like, because we've gone through so much of the other stuff that I was like, well, I don't think it'll probably work. Like, we'll just have to keep going until it does. Like, your mindset's just keep moving, essentially. Didn't really give ourselves a chance to think that it would actually come to fruition. So, yeah, it was like pretty instant with that. And then I felt awful for like 4 to 6 weeks. That was pretty rubbish. And then we came home and we had this grand plan of like telling my mum over Christmas.
This is a great story.
And so I woke up one morning, and for the people, like, to explain mine and Lindsay's relationship, I'm like probably the calmer one, and then like Lindsay's super, just like she's normally me calming her down. She's kind of like she's the one that will get stressed out if there's something going on, and I'm like, nah, it's fine, don't worry about it. And then in this scenario, I woke up and I was bleeding. I was like, oh shit! And this is like 6 weeks in, and it's panic stations then, because none of us know what we're meant to experience. And but we went and got blood test, and Lynn's was like, we're on the way to this blood test place, and I'm just sort of like, keep it cool, keep calm. But I was getting upset, and I was like, I just want to speak to mum. Like, I just wanted to speak to mum at that point. And Lynn's was like, yeah, I think you should call your mum. So we guess, not funny, but at the time, God. And then we get this blood place at 7:30 in the morning as soon as they open, and I just ring my mum in an absolute state, and I'm like, and she's like, what? She didn't
even know that you were pregnant. So
didn't even know we'd gone for and she'd known about every other aspect of everything. This is the first thing I'd kept entirely secret because I wanted to get back at Christmas. So she's having like an absolute breakdown at the same time as I am. Anyway, whatever she said to me made me feel better, because I got out of the car and was like, right, well, it is what it is now, isn't it? So we're gonna have to just get on with this. And obviously everything was fine, but that was not nice. That was really scary.
Yeah.
And then we came home, told Mum at Christmas, which was amazing. We got her to a scan. I did like a private 10-week scan, and this baby thing like waved and and you're like, it's just crazy. Then we came to you for New Year's Eve, which outside of the company was a total washout because I was 10 weeks pregnant. Lindsay had sinusitis. You and Ian were ill.
It was bad times. None of us were on our usual top form, but it was still lovely to spend time with you guys. It was so nice.
But we're going to party in Lisbon. We're going to have such a good New Year's. We were all in bed by 11:30.
Stood there at 11 going, should we go now? Yeah.
I was pretty tired. Brilliant.
Yeah.
And then I got back to Sydney, and I am very fortunate that who I report into in work has 4 children. So, I told Ness, and she was incredible. Like, obviously entirely supportive of the whole thing, especially once she knew the backstory, and it wasn't just like I'd gone into corporate and like got pregnant. Like, there was a lot more to it than that. And here we are. We are nursery done. We are 29 weeks, and we are very close to getting this baby out.
Yeah, it's amazing. We are so thrilled for you both. It has been a journey, and like you say, I think there's just so many interesting things that you had to go through, take into consideration that so many people don't. And I think it was really interesting, when you were offered this kind of great role, and you're like, do I tell them? And it's like it's such a hard thing, because you should absolutely feel like, of course, you should be able to tell anybody that and what you're going through. But naturally, you do have this, oh, well, they're going to sign me off my probation. Is it going to impact like my role there? And it's just silly. But also because of the journey that you'd had, and because there'd been, a lot of lows up to that point, also nothing's guaranteed. So is it even worth telling them, So it was just, It was such an interesting, and you're just such an honest person as well. Like, you wear your heart on your sleeve. You're incredibly honest. There's nothing that you won't share. You're happy to tell your story. But it's really, really exciting, and we're very, very pleased for you both.
We're going to get a purple patch little podcast shirt. I think that's what she get, like, the baby.
That's what we're going to get. Exactly. And it's going to join. As well when you're ready to introduce 100%. Said baby. But you do not know what you're having, other than that it's a baby. That's the only thing you do know. Yeah, it's definitely a baby. We don't know what it's going to come out like. Like, is it going to be a boy or a girl, or even in between? We just don't know.
If it comes out with blonde hair, blue eyes, we know something's gone wrong.
Yes, but that's all right. You'll love it anyway. But the other super interesting thing, which I think you kind of touched on at the beginning as well, is that you are adopted, and you have an incredibly close relationship with your mum, Sarah. Hi, Sarah. And I thought it was super interesting, like how you told that story about you've always known that you were adopted. Tell that story, like what your mum used to tell you.
With the dolls, she used to. If you're of a certain age, you remember the little Russian dolls. And Mum used to basically tell me a bedtime story every night, like most other kids. But she used to basically tell me that you didn't come from my tummy, you came from another lady's tummy, and she would tell it through these ornaments. And I remember someone, I don't know what they would have said to me. I would have been like 7. But I was in year 3, so I knew I was about 7. And I told the story like, oh yeah, my mum and dad adopted me from Bulgaria and blah, blah, blah. And it was part of 1991. And I literally told it like I would now. But like I've always known. I never got sat down and told. There's 2 things that woman who gave me up did incredibly well. 2 things very, very, very useful for me. She ticked a box to say I could be adopted, first and foremost. The most important thing is she ticked a box to say I could be adopted internationally.
Yeah,
so,
brilliant.
Therefore, Mum and Dad could go over and get me. And I think that was a 9-month process. And then by the time I was actually home, it was a lot. I was 9 months when I got back into the UK, and my mum and dad saw me, I think, from a few weeks old. I think I was about 9 weeks from them. I think that's what they said. But I weighed a bag of sugar. I was like 4 pounds when I was born. and the baby inside me right now is like 2.5, and I'm like, oh my God, like we really could go at any point here. But mum's coming over, so that's going to be very special.
It's going to be very special. But how important, as somebody who is adopted, how important do you think it is to you, like having your own biological kind of child?
It's a really interesting question, because obviously initially it was always going to be Lynn's, and we were always very okay with one and done as well. Like, we don't know what the future holds. We've got no idea. Like, it's like saying someone to get engaged. When you get married, I don't know if we'll ever do number 2. Let's just see how we feel, right, and go through that. I think it will dawn on me and be really real when you like hold that baby, and I'm like, I even sent you the scan and I showed my like the baby picture of me, and the face shape is the same. That's weird. It's going to be really weird to look at something that actually looks like me. And for me, be the first blood known relative to me, which throughout my entire life has never bothered me. So it'll be really, really interesting to see how it plays out, to have like a literal mini me sitting with me. But
it's going to be great. It's going to be really, really exciting. And I think it was important to kind of share your story. And you again, very lucky in the organisation that you work for as well. You can take a really nice chunk of time off to spend with your newborn, and time you'll never get back. So you don't have to rush. I think
that's the thing as well. Like, we were panicking about like telling them and what do I do, etc. But like, you've only got to use your logical brain a little bit and go, well, they provide these benefits for a reason. If they wouldn't support you, if they weren't gonna support you, kind of thing. So I had a similar thing recently with other people, and they're like, oh, do I say, do I don't? Let's just tell them. Like, you've got to trust who you're directly reporting into. But 99.9% of the time, like, the business will absolutely support you, because they put a lot of these benefits on for this reason. They want to keep, especially women in work, they want to like bring you back into the workplace. They want to stagger you back in the right way. Like, incredibly supportive of where I am now. I'm very lucky. But also, I think a lot of other businesses offer very similar benefits these days, and probably all thought exactly the same as me of like, when do I tell them? What do I do? Like, very strange.
Yeah, no, it's brilliant. It's great. And the fact that the two of you as well can take some of that time off, and it's hard when you live at the other side of the world from your family. You get to go share that experience with them, which is great, and us. Hopefully we might have another New Year's together, which might be better than the last
we're coming home for Christmas. We're planning
that. Well, thanks so much for sharing your story, Lucy, and letting everybody know. Well, it's not long now.
Or maybe the next one we'll have the baby.
Maybe. I hope we can squeeze another.
I hope we do a couple more before that. Yeah.
Let's squeeze another podcast in before that, because I think you're going to be quite occupied when this baby comes. But I think just some great advice there. Thank you for sharing your unique story. Of course, I know you're incredibly open. So if anybody's got questions or wants to talk to you about it, I'm sure you'd be happy to share your experience. And like you say, I think it's a great point. Those benefits are there to be used. And I think the more that we as women are supported, the faster we'll come back to work. The more we can drive our career, because naturally we do suffer. When we take time out, that's a year of not contributing to your super, and a year of not climbing the ladder and being considered for a promotion and all that kind of stuff. So it's great. And congratulations to the two of you. Yay!
Thanks. Yay.
And we did talk names as well. Like, we gave our ideas about names. I really enjoyed that little exercise that we did where we stress tested a few names, tried to pick them apart. Would they be bullied? That kind of stuff.
Literally, that's what you got to do, isn't it? Just see what. Yeah. We'll see. We've got like a 5 for each now, and just see what happens. We're going to have to just call it, shout it, and be like, does that work for that baby?
Yeah, shout it. That's a good point. Yeah, good point. All right, mate. Well, listen, you have a lovely weekend, and we'll chat soon.
Speak to you soon.
Bye.